Fyodor Dostoevsky once wrote, "Above all, don't lie to yourself. The man who lies to himself and listens to his own lie comes to a point that he cannot distinguish the truth within him or around him, and so loses all respect for himself and others. And having no respect, he ceases to love." To make your life a bit simpler, you trick yourself into believing a lie. A lie is a way of thinking that you use to get around suffering. You want to believe a falsehood because the truth would be damaging to your ego. You tell yourself lies to make yourself feel better. I wish there had been a simpler way to say it, but one must come to terms with the unpleasant realities. You must, however, quit lying, since doing so will destroy your spirit and cause you unimaginable suffering. Lying is no different than self-deception, and self-deception is the same as profound betrayal. Life will be much harder for you than it needs to be if you spend a lot of time convincing yourself that you're someone other than who you really feel you are on the inside. Lies have serious societal repercussions. Lying harms your reputation, makes you feel guilty inside, and generally makes people dislike you. Fortunately, if we are inclined to lie, the constant fear of social rejection naturally keeps us in check. This makes lying to people a terrible choice. Interestingly, upon lying to ourselves, we do not feel nearly as guilty about this self-inflicted violation, primarily because we hardly even recognize it most of the time. In fact, you're far more trained as a human to recognize when someone is lying to you than you are to recognize when you're lying to yourself. Why is that so? Maybe because you're usually influenced to avoid focusing too much on your own inconsistencies. The majority of the time, we don't treat ourselves with the same level of cold mistrust that we do to others whom we believe could have been feeding us lies. We naturally want to feel whole and reasonable as humans. This myth could be disproved once we become aware of how frequently we lie to ourselves. Many of us are opposed to the thought of having to undergo an identity revision. Sometimes, even though you're aware that you're lying to yourself, the voice within your head that is encouraging you to do so yells louder. In this situation, give yourself room to recognize the lies you tell your inner self. Never criticize yourself for the discoveries you will make. The distinction between a lie and the truth might also vary slightly in other situations. Your brain will try to persuade you to believe a lie logically. Above all, refusing to lie to oneself produces the type of originality and calm in one's own authenticity that causes anxiety to vanish. You may relax knowing that you have carried out your obligation to refrain from lying to yourself in favor of hearing the truth. Therefore, it would be wise to practice the art of questioning yourself and learn to be able to reflect honestly on oneself. Ask yourself repeatedly, why do I do the things I do? From there, you will be able to access a huge inner discourse that is brutally honest, but also beneficial and perhaps in the long run, therapeutic. We shouldn't lie to ourselves because doing so would make us hate ourselves, and if we spread this type of hatred within ourselves, we will spread it across the rest of the world as well. So if at all possible, refrain from lying to yourself. You can never get away from your own lies and effects because you can never get away from yourself. The more we can encourage ourselves to live honestly, the better off we will be, since it is the only antidote we have.